evening, afternoon. I'm not sure what time zone I'm in, what day it is. I'm a little confused because of, it is a little bit far, but I'm really happy to be here. I absolutely love Sweden. This is actually my 4th time in a year that I come to Sweden. That's how much I love this place, okay? So when I say that I love you guys, I literally do love you guys. There you go. And I'm getting some love back. All right. This is great because it is 4 o'clock. So I know everybody's a little bit on the low. Everybody had coffee? Okay, thank you. Can anybody give me a coffee? No, I'm kidding. Okay, so quick agenda. We're just going to review a little bit about who the ALDO Group is for those of you that don't know us. We're going to talk about me, but very briefly because you already heard about me, and it's really not about me. It's about people, and it's about analytics, and it's about what we can do and what we should do to ensure that we measure our people properly so that we can help evolve and grow our enterprises. And then just a little brief interlude on data literacy and why it is important for our companies to become data literate. We good? Beautiful. So, who knows the ALDO Group? Okay, so we got a few people that have heard of the ALDO Group. For those of you that don't know us, we are a fashion, footwear, accessories, handbag, retailer, wholesaler, whatever you want. We love the fashion world, and that's where we excel at. And we have a really long journey and a beautiful history of evolution and growth, and always surpassing ourselves, always transforming ourselves. And why does this matter? Well, it matters because the retail industry, in case you guys haven't noticed, is a little bit all over the place right now, and there's a lot of challenges in that space. So as we started out back in 1972, we were founded by a gentleman in Montreal. So we are a Montreal-based company, and we are still Montreal-based, and we are still a private company, which I think it's fantastic because when you look at our evolution, we could have gone public at any given moment, but they are so involved in the company, and the family loves the company so much, and you feel it. In fact, we are still a company that runs on 3 fundamental values, which are love, respect, and integrity. And the little pin that I have is the ALDO pin. It's our emblem. If I actually take it off and flip it around, you would see engraved on the pin, love, respect, integrity. So it's not just a joke. And I find that those lend themselves very well to the people world, to the HR world, and to the analytics space as well. So we continue to evolve our company. In '78, we opened our first freestanding store, which was a really big year for the company, not because of the store, but because I was born. No, I'm kidding. And then we started our international expansion. In '85, we opened offices in Switzerland. We went international in '95. We launched new brands. 2003, we had the Cod Spring brand. Then we started e-commerce in 2005. And transactional e-commerce in 2005 for footwear is pretty early in the game. Nobody thought that people would buy shoes online because, hey, you got to try them out. You got to walk in them because sometimes I'm a 9 and sometimes I'm a 9.5 or a 38 or a 39. I'm not exactly sure, but you'll forgive me. But we still took the leap because sometimes you need to take a leap of faith, and we are about evolution. We are about challenging ourselves. We believe in challenging the status quo. We also believe in consumers. So in 2015, we set out an entire strategy about consumer analytics, CRM analytics, consumer insights. We built out this entire roadmap and strategy for that, and we helped redefine who our target consumer was going to be. Now, the only reason why I have SAP on this slide over here as a milestone, has anybody gone through an SAP implementation? Exactly. You're all laughing, but really I know you're just sympathizing with my pain. But the point is, we put it in, and we only put it in because we have good people. And if you're going to go through this massive undertaking at putting this type of system in, you better also track your people and understand how they're doing and take a pulse and take care of them because not everybody can get through that. And in 2018, we were the first fashion footwear company to obtain a climate neutral certification, which I think is fantastic because it, again, goes to show that we care more about the world than just simply turning a buck. We actually care about our environment. We care about the people that live in this world. So I'm very, very proud of that fact, and we all are as a company because it matters what we do and how we behave in our society. We have over 3,000 point of sale locations across the world. We are in over 100 different countries. I'm seeing big eyes. You guys probably didn't know all those facts, but that's pretty intense if you think about it for a fashion footwear company to be so spread out, which means that we also have over 20,000 associates. And when you got 20,000 associates, you better have some kind of idea as to how you're going to manage that and how you're going to get feedback from them in order to be able to measure their happiness and measure their success and their efficiency, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a little bit about the ALDO Group. Now, for myself, you've already heard, I've been with ALDO for about 5 years now. Before that, I was in consulting, always in the data and analytics space. It's a world that I absolutely adore, that I'm super passionate about. I also teach at university. So I'm a university professor in one of Montreal's business schools, where I teach analytics, data governance, data visualization, all those really, really funky topics that I'm passionate about, and I'm sure you all are passionate about. But there are more important facts about me that you probably don't know. I have 2 really cute little boys, really, really cute. The only challenge, though, is that one of them thinks he's a boxer, which is adorable, I guess. But the one that makes me a little more uneasy is the one that thinks he's Darth Vader. And I'm not kidding. He has a Darth Vader blanket, and he has a Darth Vader tutu that he sleeps with. He doesn't sleep with, he's 4 years old, by the way, just for the record. He doesn't sleep with one of those cuddly little bears. He sleeps with a Darth Vader doll. And then when we put him to bed and we close the door and we leave, if we come back 10 minutes later, we hear da 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 da. He sings the Imperial March to put himself to sleep. But he's still cute. We love him anyways. Everything on 2 wheels is fantastic, whether it's a bicycle or a motorcycle. That's how I get around, and that's just fun. And hockey is the only important and true sport. And Canada is its home. But I'm willing to share with Sweden, but not the US. Never the US. It's our sport. We are the North. So, what do I want to talk to you guys about? Well, people analytics. Why do people deserve analytics? Well, what are analytics? I think we all understand the basic concepts behind analytics, right? You guys are all data people, or you're very close to being data people, or you just love data because you're here. But at the end of the day, we are trying to leverage data in order to be able to measure an outcome or measure a specific situation, leveraging statistics and technology. That's what analytics is. It doesn't have to be a 17-page definition by Gartner. It could really just be a 1-sentence blurb. And we measure a lot of stuff. What do we analyze? What do we typically analyze? We analyze B2B customers, right? We want to analyze the sales, and we run analytics on that to see performance. We also analyze products. Why wouldn't we run analytics on products? What's my best performer? What's going to be the fashion trend next month or next year or next season so that I can plan for my buys? I also analyze my factories. Is there a factory that's giving me issues? Is there one that I should be focusing on to send a specific good to get produced over there? The vendors, do I have better vendors? Do they meet their objectives in terms of shipping the goods on time in full? So we run all of those metrics and all of those analytics on all of these different facets of our business. The end consumers, if we want to have a 360 view of the consumer so that we can personalize our offers to those consumers to be relevant in the marketplace, we do that as well. Of course, we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort analyzing our stores to understand which ones are good, where should we launch a new store, what locations we should be focusing on, and 3PL partners that manage distribution centers. So all of these things are being analyzed all the time, and we spend a lot of money and a lot of effort trying to figure out what's going on with those places. But what about people? What about people analytics? Are people a priority? Yes, right? People are a priority. In fact, people are a very, very special type of asset. People are actually an appreciating asset. And I found this, I was doing a lot of research as, I wanted to learn about people analytics over the last couple years. And I found this study over here that was conducted by Deloitte, where they talk about how people are an appreciating asset. It's a really great lecture. But ultimately, you know that when you hire someone, and if you guys are in HR, I'm not teaching you anything new here, but I just need this to be evident. When you hire someone, they have a negative economic value. And as you onboard them, they are still a negative economic value because you are spending your capital and your resources in order to bring them up to speed so they cross that level of negativity and start to generate revenue or start to generate value for your enterprise. And as they continue to evolve through their training and you assign them new assignments, and when they start to become mobilized and engaged and they feel influenced and driven, that's when they start to really generate value. And that value continues to grow over time as they gain experience and maturity within your organization, especially if you focus on their education and you grow them. They're an appreciating asset, but we don't spend a lot of time analyzing them. We focus more time on depreciating assets. I find that a little bit odd. But at the very least, companies have recognized this. 70% of organizations recognize that people analytics are high priority items. The hypocritical aspect of this, though, is that less than 5% of big data investments go to HR. I don't know. That makes me a little scary. That's a little freaky, right? If you think about it, we don't focus in the right place our investments all the time. That's normal. But we should spend a little more than 5% on our people if they are an appreciating asset. Now, scarier still is the fact that there was a study that was a pretty large study, actually, with a bunch of different HR partners and C-level HR associates that were interviewed and asked. And what came out of this was that less than 10%, the number was actually 9%, 9.2% or something, but I kind of rounded it up to make it look better because I wanted a double digit, have actually figured out and have a handle on what drives employee performance. How? How does that make any sense? That in this day and age, with the technology that we have, with the statistical models that we can build and develop to understand what's going on, with this AI revolution, everybody does AI, right? Everybody has an AI system somewhere, and every vendor will sell you AI until they're blue in the face. But in this time and space where we think we can do all this great stuff, we still don't understand exactly what drives performance. That's also pretty scary. I got a lot of scary people on that one. The other one was bad, but this one is even worse. But the truth is a lot of companies are understanding this and are going to do something about it. Now, this is an actually pretty cool story. So this is a mural at ALDO. Inside our head office, what we did is we commissioned a graffiti artist to come and spend time and talk to people every level of the organization and interview them and try and figure out what's going on and how they're feeling and get inspired, and from an artistic perspective, render their view of what our organization stands for. I think it's pretty neat that what the artist came out with is that it's all about the people. So just as an organization, I'm very proud to say that some stranger has come in, an artist came in, and when we asked him to depict in an artistic manner what my company stands for, well, it's about people. And I think that's pretty neat. So, of course, as we continue to evolve down that journey of caring about people and wanting to understand more, we wanted to design an HR dashboard. And I'm going to give you a couple tips on designing dashboards as best practices and how to do that and how to define those important KPIs. It's a class that I actually teach at university, so I'm just going to kind of bring in some of my professoral stuff. But we did it in a very specific way. I didn't go out to hire a dashboard designer and tell them build a dashboard for HR. HR actually came to us and said, we'd like to be able to measure and understand what's going on a little bit better with people. Can you help us? They said, we have the budget. We're willing to hire someone, but we would like to get your support in hiring the right person. So we actually partnered and worked together to find the right candidate. They hired that candidate. But guess where that candidate sits? In my org. She sits with my developers and my analysts and my dashboard folks and my BI people and my artificial intelligence. Why? Because this person is now going to be able to get the understanding and the best practices from my team, but the HR knowledge and the HR experience from the HR department. And that's how you kind of build bridges between different functions and you get the best of both worlds. So how do you design a dashboard properly? What are the things that you want to have in that dashboard? And that's, whether it's HR or another department, this is absolutely relevant to both of those cases, right? You want to benchmark your KPIs against industry standards. You don't want to just use them against internal targets. You need to know what's going on. You want to wrap your metrics and your KPIs, and by the way, there's a distinction between KPIs and metrics, but you want to wrap them together with contextual information. You want to have the design of your dashboard validated by an ergonomist or a usability specialist or whatever you want to call it. Now, not every company has those. And not every company can afford to go hire a usability specialist to come in and validate that this thing is in the right place over here so that when I'm looking at it, it makes sense and it drives a story. But we all have websites, which means that we have website designers. And website designers work in a similar fashion because they need to capture your attention and kind of tell you a story so as you're following information on the screen, it makes sense. So you can leverage that as well. You want to have prioritization, alerts, ranking. It's not just about basic information that's being spewed out. And you want to enrich the dashboard with business user content, business user comment. Now, one of the things that I would highly recommend is that you watch out for visuals. Don't just throw pie charts everywhere. Pie charts aren't the best way of visualizing information. You may have some, but try to limit it. There are so many different visualization techniques out there. There are great books and great documents that you can just quickly download online to go and figure out how to pick the right visualization. But it's not just about the visualization. It's not just about the container. The content is equally important, if not more. So how do you define proper KPIs? KPIs need to actually be attached to a business strategy. So if you're trying to solve for a problem that doesn't exist, you're wasting everybody's time. So start with an opportunity or a problem, and we can look at one in a second. We're going to map them to actual goals and objectives so that we can measure that the tactics we're applying in order to resolve the issue. So if you think of an issue where you have high turnover and you want to be able to track that, well, what tactics are you applying to fix it? How do you measure it? How do you track it? That's how you define your key performance indicator, and that's how you have all of your supporting metrics. Now, what you want to make sure that you're also doing in that context is that you have a feedback loop and that you do not use your KPIs to punish. KPIs are not punitive by nature, but a lot of companies use them in order to say, well, you didn't hit your objective. That's not good. That's not the point. The point of a KPI is to help to drive performance. It's to help to improve an employee's ability to reach that objective. So those are all the different types of aspects you can look at into how you're going to design KPIs properly. And you'll have those slides. I'll be sharing those as well, right, through PDF documents. So you'll be able to look at those later in more detail. But you want KPIs and measures? There are tons of them. But you can't fit everything on a single dashboard. The human brain has the capacity to be able to absorb 7 plus or minus 2 pieces of information in its short-term memory. That's what we can hold on to in short term. So if you're putting 15 KPIs on your dashboard, you're out of luck. So limit the amount of information, pick the ones that really matter. So if we go back to that situation where we were talking about high turnover, let's say you have a hemorrhaging situation where a lot of people are leaving. Well, you might want to pick up a few different KPIs that'll help you figure out how to resolve that problem and get to the bottom of it. So your absence rate, for example, your net promoter score is something that's very interesting to measure. You can measure that through surveys. We do that as well. Turnover rate, but don't go and bring in everything in one shot. Limit that information, build that dashboard, make it available. But that's one aspect. That's attribute data. That's data at an employee level that, yes, you can aggregate for a group, but there's other stuff. And I was trying to figure out, can we do more? Is there something else that we can do other than leveraging standard attribute employee level data? And so I started to do a little bit of research, and I think back in end of 2018, I started to dig deeper. And I came across a really interesting article that was published in HBR, Harvard Business Review, talking about relational analytics. Are you guys familiar with relational analytics? So some of you are nodding yes, some of you are nodding no. It's a relatively new thing, and so it's a little bit cutting edge, but I kind of liked it, and I like challenging the status quo. So let's talk about what relational analytics is. It's ultimately about networks within your organization, people networks within your organization. And the researchers came up with a few different concepts, a few different signatures that they call them, that can help you identify who are key employees, and you can do that. It is absolutely possible. So they were looking at those different signatures, and some of them were around ideation, influence, efficiency, innovators, silos. Do we have silos that we need to break down? Risks. If a specific employee leaves, what is the risk to my organization? Typically, we'll look at that, and how do we identify that today? Oh, he's a senior director. If he leaves, it's going to have a really big impact. Or he's managing this big contract with this vendor or with this customer. If he leaves, we're shit out of luck. But what about the employee that doesn't have the big title, but that actually has a very important role that you don't necessarily notice with traditional attribute level analytics? That's where relational analytics kick in. So I wanted just to take two examples that to me are heavily connected and talk to you guys about what we can do about this and what we plan on doing about this. So let's take Mrs. Bluish Purple. It depends on which screen I'm looking. But let's take Mrs. Blue. Okay? So Mrs. Blue is part of a team, and she's connected directly to two people and communicates with others. That's the network, her immediate network. And then you have Mr. Orange, who has a bit of a larger team and who's connected to three of the people in his team, and then there's different connections. Theoretically, we would say then that Mr. Orange has more influence or may get better ideas because he is better connected. But these people don't exist in a silo. They exist in an organization with a whole bunch of other functions and other departments. So now let's talk about those other departments that themselves are networking with each other. And now if we look at Mrs. Purple, we can see that her reach is much larger, which means that from an ideation perspective, even if Mr. Orange might be a hyper-creative person, he may not get new ideas because he is not exposed to other people in the organization outside of his network, whereas Mrs. Blue is connected to a whole bunch of other networks within the organization. Now let's talk about influence. They have relatively the same number of connections at this point. Let's add a few more connections for Mr. Orange. Mr. Orange's connections are very limited. They don't have, if you look at the bottom section over here, they die with these people. They don't reach further out. So the level of influence that this individual is going to have may not be as great as the other one. How do you do that? How do you measure that? That's the real question. Well, you use that big data budget that nobody's spending on HR analytics, and you start to use it. You grab a few of those dollars, and what you do is you go and you start to capture data from your internal communications platforms. Because networking is what? It's people communicating. They communicate through Hangout, through Slack community channels, through email. And with that information, I'm not telling you to go and read what they're talking about. Okay, that's a big no-no. I'm data protection officer for the ALDO Group, and I would tell you, hell no. But you could look and see who they communicate with, at what frequency they communicate. And once you have that, you can start to understand different aspects of your people analytics and take it one step above the basic attribute data that we are all accustomed to using. And that's great. But if you don't have a company that speaks data, that's never going to fly either. So there's something that needs to be done in order to educate your organization as to the importance of being data literate. And I'm just going to give you like literally 3 slides on this. And then if you guys want to talk about it, I'll be at the Dare Ducks booth table. You can come and talk to me, and we can discuss data literacy. I know it's a pretty hot topic as well. I was in MIT giving a talk on data literacy just a couple months ago, like 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. And it's a really important topic of communication and of conversation within your orgs. So what is data literacy? I'm going to spare you the really big blurb. I'm just going to tell you what my son told me, my 6-year-old, not Darth Vader. But I was putting him to sleep about 8 months ago. And he was just learning how to read. So, he was 5.5, and we were in bed, and he was just deciphering the words, and he was getting good. I was very proud, proud papa, like my son can read. He's 5 years old. This is great. And he looks at me and he's like, Daddy, you know what the letters are doing? I'm like, no. He's like, they're showing me a story. And I'm like, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use that in my data literacy talk. Because guess what? Isn't that what data literacy is about? Isn't that what data storytelling is? It's about inferring information, meaning, stories, context from data, the same way we do it with words. So that's basically what data literacy is. And it's important. It's really important. You know why it's important? Because by the end of next year, half of the organizations are not going to have sufficient data literate folks to drive business value. I'm not saying this. Gartner is, and every other consulting firm that is studying the market right now will give you the same statistics. So we need, as organizations, as HR departments that care and want to upskill our workforce, as the people who are responsible for our companies to evolve and to grow, we need to get on this bandwagon and we need to do something about it before it is too late. What you want to do is to build a comprehensive program. I'm just going to give you a few examples. I won't be able to go through the entire deck, but maybe at some point we will. But you need them to understand data storage. You need them to understand how data gets produced. People need to understand how to interpret this information. You can give them all of the alphabets in the world. If they don't know how to interpret the meaning of that word, it will not help them, ever. You need to provide them with the ability to understand data visualizations. Side story, data visualizations are critical. Our brains are not built to be able to comprehend spreadsheets. We have not evolved over time from the primordial soup to become capable to read Excel. What we have evolved from is our ability to survive in a very hostile environment, without claws, without teeth, without armor. We did it simply because we were able to interpret visual patterns and cues that would enable us to survive. So we are meant, we are built, we are conditioned, our brains are designed to recognize visual pattern and act on it in snap moment decision making. We need to explain to them and for them to understand different statistical models. I don't need them to understand how to code a k-means cluster, but I need them to at least understand the difference between classification and clustering. And that's what you want to educate your people on. And of course, governance principles, because I'm biased and I'm the data governance person and I'm the DPO. And as the DPO, I want to make sure that we have also ethical usage of our data with all the rules and regulations that have come about. Are we good with that? Does that make sense that we want to get there, that we want to upscale our workforce? We do it with every other department. You know how a debit and a credit in accounting works. Do you need to know exactly the ins and outs of every single financial transaction and where they go and how they get done and posted and non-posted and all that stuff? No. But you know the basics. Why wouldn't you know the basics about data? Especially when we know that data is going to drive our organizations into the future or sink them if we don't do anything about it properly. So we launched this data literacy program at ALDO. And we had a phenomenal amount of feedback. And this is verbatim feedback. I mean, I had one user write back saying that she couldn't believe she called analytics fun. And this is not IT folks that I'm training. I'm not training the people in IT or the people in BI or the people that are technical in nature. I'm talking about training the merchants, the buyers and the planners and the allocators, the people that make the decisions in the day-to-day operations. And that's what they had to say. And, you know, I measure stuff because I'm the data guy. So of course I had statistics in terms of evaluating the increase in data adoption and usage and all that kind of stuff. All I'm saying is that it can be done. Okay? It doesn't have to be the most complicated and impossible thing to do. Just a few key points to leave you guys with before I exit right. Start simple. If you're not going to go down the people analytics route just yet, that's okay. Or rather the relational analytics part of people analytics. But at the very least, start with the attribute data. Once you have something, which is better than nothing, then start to have fun and start to explore. Engage your data science team if you have one, or engage your advanced analytics team if you have one, and show them things like advanced analytics for relational analytics. They're going to think it's really cool. They're going to want to get involved with you guys to play with this. When I showed these models to my head of data science, he was like, damn, that's cool. We totally need to play with this, because they see the big data and they see the unstructured information and they see the neural nets and they see the deep learning and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a really beautiful project that you can package and deliver value with. Build those dashboards, deliver some quick wins, get some capital momentum going for you, leverage those techniques, but also create a data literacy program for your organization. Because if your company doesn't know or doesn't understand or hasn't gone down the path of a cultural change where data is an asset, it doesn't matter what you do, it will not be successful. I'm going to be around for the rest of the afternoon. If you guys want to sit down and chit-chat and continue the conversation, do not hesitate. You can reach me on my personal email account. I've left it up there. You can add me on LinkedIn if you want to chat with me some more. But thank you very much for your attention this afternoon.